All right, we are back with another video. I actually wanted to do a video like this for a while. Selling different things on eBay. I mean, I made one, the bulks one, and that's hit and miss, of course, what you could get out of a bulks lot and any other of those online things. I had someone go on to an online talk about online at one of my trade shows. He said he wanted to get into it, and I said pretty much there's only two or three companies that are reliable. Everything else is either a scam or it's just stuff you would buy on Amazon like really cheap or Wish or stuff like that. And the thing is, when it boils down to stuff, is that quality always makes it happen, and it's really hard to get quality sometimes at a good price. I mean, and even with the bulk stuff, I have to go through a lot of junk to get something that's going to make money. It's always a thing. So you always try to look out for the best thing. If there's a lot of stuff that's common, your market's bad. I mean, it's bad enough you're trying to get 30 or 40% return on your costs and everything. And most times it's not there. And especially if you get stuff that's like cheap, inexpensive, mass-produced Chinese-made stuff, it is very, very, very hard to make any money off of it. Normally, you're making maybe 5 to 10%, and to keep anything going, say like e-commerce business, it's hard. And this is actually an example of something that I picked up. And you could actually make money at it, but it's not buku money. And what it does too, I'm just pacing here right now just because I have, prepared thoughts and everything, but at Seitai 2, I don't want people to sit there and say, this is what I want to buy and start selling. This, doing school uniforms just for sale is a very hard thing. This is just a weird passion of mine. I've liked it. I've had some good success with it. Problem is, you are competing against a lot of people and other factors. We'll get into that. So, backstory on this. This is a lot of very good uniforms. If I get to zoom in there right there, okay, we got a little Becky Thatcher, which is outerwear. I think in two lines of ranking. They're like three around there because you got. I think the biggest one is Flynn and O'Hara. Is I always feel that they're the biggest one of all of the privately owned non big box store companies just because of their spread and why and I that. Dennis is number two. It's the second one, and three is these guys. I always feel these guys are number three just because they're hit and miss. I mean, all three companies are all throughout the North America. Dennis tends to be West Coast because they're based out of Portland, Oregon. Flynn O'Hara is based out of Philadelphia, and these guys are out of the Midwest. So a lot of Midwestern schools do it. Southern schools get into it. Upper Midwest schools, not much onto the coast. Dennis is pretty much a West Coast entity. Dennis uniforms, and Flynn O'Hara is definitely an East Coast thing. I could put down School Bells. They're like 4 or 5 into it, but they're getting into that weird thing. They're out of Cleveland. Good quality stuff. All the qualities there. All the fabrics that they use. This is polyester. This is like durable. You could actually have, a dog could chew it up, and dog will have probably a broken jaw after it. But this is designed for wear and tear on a kid. So backstory on this is that a woman was trying to sell it on eBay for about 3 months or so. She had four, I think got four of those. Four of them. They're all the same size. I think they're her daughter. They were her daughters. She had two daughters because she had one in bigger size. Bigger size went. This is the size 8, and these didn't go. So these are just hanging on. She wanted to move them. She dropped the price down from I think $35 for the set, which that's pretty good if you're going to buy school uniforms. Especially you can't get the size, but it's a common size, so you should be able to get it. So a lot of times it's in stock like that. The plaid's a common plaid, so again, the school requires you to do it, and people are not going to buy a set of plaid jumpers, especially some of these die-hard homeschoolers. I'll say die-hard because that makes some sense. They're the ones that would buy uniforms for the kids to wear just for, just for the atmosphere, I should say. That's the better term about it, is just the atmosphere of it. So they're not going to buy 4 or 5 of the same type unless they were. I think there's 5 of them, but anyhow, they're all different ones. So I'm thinking the backstory is they moved out of the area. They weren't putting their kids through Catholic school anymore. They probably try to go through church or whatever, try to offload these to another private school in the area for their uniform exchanges. There's another topic to talk about when we talk about selling school uniforms. Yeah, so the topic is or the thing is like, okay, so these got up very, very low. I got them like really cheap and I can make money off of them. So, outerwear, these are going for about 45 to $50 a piece. Larger sizes up to plus girls is up to $50 a piece, $51, $52 a piece. So there is some market out there for these secondhand uniforms. It tends to be from 12 on. The market is a lot better than 12 down. 12 down are common because most, in this case, this is a jumper. So jumpers tend to be kids from kindergarten to, I think preschoolers wearing jumpers, preschool to 3rd grade. Most schools cut it off at 3rd grade because of, well, I should just say, body changes. Maybe not a correct term, but it has to do with growing up. Anyhow, so jumpers tend not to be. By the time 4th grade comes around, they tend to be childish. I'll just say that in modern terms. Jumpers, for the most part, like this. I mean, I could give you a history lesson. It's like this is actually developed off of the gym slip of the 1900, 1910, 1920s. 30s, they got into from gym to normal school wear, around there. 40s was big because not this full jumper sort of thing with this, with suspenders type straps. They call them the open style. With the skirt and everything. Those became bigger into the 40s, into the 50s, but these were still prevalent because schools, when they stick to something, they keep going. This style is over 100 years old for the most part. The jumper isn't, but the style is. The plaids came from the 50s. It's when plaids became standardized. Certain organizations had their plaid. And most of them are based off of the Scottish names or saints, or organizations. The Jesuits had their own dress code, for instance, for the schools. The Brothers had their own dress code for the schools. The different orders of sisters had their own codes for school uniforms in their schools. So this is devised off of it. So this is a very popular right now. The grayish blue, white, blue, red, white, and blue sort of color is Americana. So it has that Americana thing. It's an older plaid. I think these plaids are around even in the 40s for the most part, for my research onto it. So in the most part that's the history onto it. So for the most part, history, who would use these? Kids from 3rd grade down. Very rarely schools now up to some of the bigger schools have an 8th grade junior high attached. Elementary schools, Catholic elementary schools, private elementary schools, they have like maybe an 8th grade attached, up to an 8th grade attached to them. They would actually keep these going into like the 5th grade. Then 6th grade, it will go skirts. And that's a whole nother subject that we could go into. Me talking about how much these things could go for, what's the market for this, and all that stuff. So the market for this is that you can't get the size. You need this when you're going to get it. Profitability, you got to get low enough to get profitable onto it. Problem is, these things, this one's probably going to sit for about 2 to 3 years until you sell it. Just a number of things. You got a number of factors of it. First of all, the direct sales from the companies themselves, such as Elderwear, Flynn O'Hara, School Bells, Dennis, Before that, Parker, when they were in business, they're not in business. And also, too, you got big box stores that are getting these kind of plaids in, too. Tommy Hilfiger is one of the brand new one. You got French Toast. They are into all the big box stores. Eva Dickies has gotten into the plaid. In most schools, they don't use plaid. They go their normal khaki blue, black, solid colors. Even the greens and the burgundies and the grays are sort of oddball kind of, and not everyone sells these things. But say type 2, Lands' End sells this type of plaid. So you got major big box store players and major catalog players into it. So that is the thing. So the demand is always capped. You got capped demand because there's enough companies, enough outlets are selling this to make it, not desirable as a secondary sale. But there is a secondary market out there. As I said, it's mainly for people that maybe they want their kid to wear this. I mean, not necessarily a great thing, but they do. I mean, they put a polo shirt underneath for a blouse, and you get the little schoolgirl thing going on for for your 5-year-old. I mean, it's not too out of the realm of possibilities, but say type 2, it's limited because this is not really stylish at the moment. You could get away with skirts. Skirts are interesting. Again, another story. Again, so we'll point out a few things here. I don't have a pointer, but anyhow. So we got the belted. It's just a fixed belt. That's just for show with the buttons and everything. Those tend to go. That is a kick pleat, they call it. So, and it's rounded back too, and that's a full chest. That's a full jumper, and I got ones that are suspender type. So, and that's one thing. So we flip it around here, and it's pretty much the same in the back, minus there's no bucking. So the zipper's right here, and the pleats continue around there. The length of this is above knee, so above knee in this case is normal. Older jumpers will be below knee. Modesty things, school regulations back in the day. So if you get old school type jumpers, they're going to be a bit longer. Also, too, this is into normal standardized sizing for kids. So girls would be normal 7 through 16. But the companies, they know they have that high end where you got the 5th graders and, things start happening. So they have extended sizes up to 20. And if your girl's a little heavier or a little bit more developed, you got the plus ranges that goes up to 18. I could say up to about before pandemic, only one company had a super special order that you could get straight off the shelf. Is Flynn O'Hara actually had jumpers into adult sizes. I have a few examples into my collection that are adult sizes, and most of those they're pretty large. I mean, but the thing is that what happened is standardization and COVID sort of messed up school uniforms a little bit. Jumpers, for the most part, in older kids are mainly, oh good lord, jumpers are only in New York City, southern parts of New Jersey, the Diocese of Philadelphia. And at one point was St. Louis, but that's gone away. They've actually gone modernize it. But also, too, a lot of schools have done it. Jumpers go for the older girls because of modesty things. They don't like the Britney Spears influence, per se, Britney Spears influence onto school uniforms where they're, almost up to their crotch. I mean, the bottom of the skirt. So some schools have gone into it. I've read a few articles. I think it's very temporarily. Some schools like dresses. They rather have the girls wear dresses and no pants, but again, you can put leggings on here. That's not a big deal. So how to sell them? I'm selling this on Poshmark because clothes on Poshmark tend to go very good. You can sell it on Etsy. Etsy's for collectors. I wouldn't do anything like I would do like really ancient stuff. This is too common. This is too new. This is last 10 years or so. Like, oh, I kicked myself off inadvertently, so we'll try to tie these together. So again, we'll say Etsy, no go with that, because if it's an Etsy thing, it has to be collectible, has to have some, you have to have some purpose for it to be repurposed, so that's fine. Mercari, Uh, it's a limited thing. They're good for. I found it very good for household stuff. Normal, it's like clothes. It's hit and miss. Quality is interesting. I know Poshmark has the best quality. You get the best thing. eBay comes down to profitability. How much money you can actually get off of it. Poshmark, you tend to have a bottom thing, as well as Mercari has a bottom to it. And with eBay, there's like no limits. And if you get someone in there who's going to drive down the price on it, you're not going to make it. That's why I say you got to get it as very cheap as you can. This is high. This is about quality, is about as best as you can. The private labels are $50 on average for a jumper like this. These will last 100 years. What it is, the materials and unreal. But you can sit there and get the lesser kinds, the French toast, Tommy Hilfiger, the Dickies, everything for anywhere between 28 to $35. And again, the Land's End, which I actually think it's overpriced. Land's End is about $40 for a jumper similar to this in the sizes that it is. I don't think the material is as heavy. It's lined, which is a plus if you don't run, say, a blouse. But these schools want you to wear t-shirts, blouses, turtlenecks, polo shirts underneath them, so that's not even here or there. And also, too, this one is going to be at knee length. So again, girls wear in the wintertime leggings, tights, knee socks, whatever. That's the way how it goes. So profitability onto this. So if you put about 15 to 20 onto it with shipping, you could sell it. It just takes forever. And go down in price, you could go about 10%, 15% low. If you go 20 below, I think in my point of trying to hit magic 40% I need to make to keep it profitable, or even 20%, you can't. There's some fiddle room to it. You can do volume discounts are the best thing. So it's like I got 4 of these silly things. So into the Mercari, not the Mercari, Poshmark thing is like, okay, the shipping is fixed, so there's not a problem with it. eBay would be a problem with it because people demand free shipping, all sorts of crazy kooky things that it just cuts into your profit, especially with way how the post office, UPS, FedEx are jacking around with the rates. It's hard to sit there and try to justify, doing free shipping or reduced shipping without messing up how much you're going to make. Because I know the zonal extremes really make shipping hard. For me, going from East Coast to West Coast is hard. And the same thing for West Coast to East Coast. I mean, Midwest, you have a little bit of buffer. Say South, some of the parts of the South I have issues with, and I think for California too, they have problems with North and South. If you're in California, with shipping to places like Arizona and Nevada, or a place like Colorado I would figure we would have some difference of shipping. But again, that's how it is. Is that profitability? There's profitability in it. You're just waiting forever for it. So don't think about it. You get 1,000 units and say I'm going to do this, and it's not going to happen, especially jumpers. Jumpers are a very specialized thing because of how the schools are. I mean, I've seen people sell the Challengers, but they're not making a lot of money off of the Challenger school. That's a for-profit school thing. All the for-profit schools have standardized jumpers and everything with the marks that you need. But the thing is, you could get secondhand, local. But the same time, too, the organizations actually have school uniform swaps, and that's the thing. School uniform swaps kill this market. There's no ifs, ands, and buts. If you could switch out one size to get the bigger size next year, or if your kid's done, you donate all this clothes for someone else to use it, and that's hard. I mean, I think the more disposable things are blouses and like leggings and stuff like that, because those are uniform and you could get them anywhere. And also that also fires too. It's like, hey, if I get this, I get a bunch of blouses or shirts. Could I sell them together? You can. It'll be more convenience. But here's the thing: you could go over to Walmart and get the same thing for $5. And you're going to try to do a Becky Thatcher Elderwear or a Finn O'Hara or any of the big companies, or even off brands that they have, polo shirts that are good enough for school use, and there's no margin in there. So the margin's reduced by a lot. And it's just hard as a secondary market, especially with shipping the way it is. I mean, that's the thing you have to realize, that shipping takes off over half of your money. And I'm finding that out badly here. Is actually it's gone up from about 45 to 50%. It's getting up almost 60% of whatever my income comes in is going out into shipping. And this is before taxes and everything. So I mean, a lot of things are being messed up with the way how the economy is right now, or just if shipping rates either go up or down or whatever. And it's always a big thing with marketing or just doing e-commerce in general. Is the shipping aspect. You could do the freebie one, but you gotta remember, you gotta find the right person for this, and it's hard to find the right person for this to sell off quickly. These are not quick sales. You're sitting on this easily 6 months. I still have stuff that's older that I probably could pop onto Etsy and probably make money onto it as antique, because they are 30, maybe 35 years old. And it's brand new. It's old stock. I mean, and this is something too. I'll say with uniforms, if you could get new stuff, you have a better shot at selling it than you use used stuff, because used stuff is out there. There's tons of used stuff, and also too, you can say, I'm just going to say this. What about the people want to do the Halloween costumes and stuff like that? That's where the 12 and up goes. Sizes 12 up are easier to sell, because you get the women who want to do the goofy costumes and everything, and you don't make a lot of money off of that ultimately, because it's a one-time shot use, and they don't go out to school uniform stores and all that stuff unless they're really into the cosplay stuff. And those people, they're few and far between. And also the Japanese and the Chinese have dumped so much material out there for them, and it has satisfied the market to the point that stuff like this is nicer, it's higher quality, it is correct if you want to be correct onto how it looks and everything. Because if I was going to do cosplay, if I was going to do cosplay, I'd do it so correct that it would be, you would never know that it's that it's pretend. It'd be so realistic. You got those factors involved, but again, it's like it's a very limited market. So if you think about dumping a bunch of stuff on there, and it's just this is sort of pros and cons. I mean, I'll leave it up to everybody, because I'm not an opinion. I'm just stating what I've found out over the years. I've done school uniform sales on eBay because, again, it's a passion of mine. I think it's interesting, for about 10 years. And seriously, it's like I sit on more uniforms than I really want to. And it's got to the point, too, where there's a few times where I could pick up uniforms, but the price is so freaking high for... I didn't want to tie up the money or the space into something that I may only sell one or two a year. You can say, oh, about marketing and everything. It doesn't matter. You could be the biggest company out there. You're still going to be stuck with these things. Because the market is satisfied with whatever companies are out there. And that's why, too, some of the companies that did exist, Dennis went out of business because they got leveraged to death. They had a private finance company owned them, and they leveraged it because guess what? The school uniform is a cash-only business. It is. It's a very good cash-only business. Problem is that there's no room for over leveraging. So it was at Toys R Us, and they were sold out. They were actually went bankrupt because they got leveraged to death. Another company too, which was become a big player, especially in the Midwest, was Cloz. CLOZ with two dots over it. That was a startup in Chicago, and they were actually hinging on the thing that Chicago was going to go all out into the private education, the charter schools things. Charters, use these type of uniforms too, but at the same time too, legislation for that dragged in that part of the country, as well as in Wisconsin and in Indiana. The legislation dragged, and two other companies were there, and they were providing the same uniforms at a better cost. Problem with Cloz is their costs were outrageous at the time. Cloz was in business. A jumper like this, they were selling for almost $60 a piece, and it was high end. their cost scales were all over the place because of Becky Thatcher, like this for the Midwest, which they're based out of. They're out of Missouri. Was around, I think, 35 bucks, 35 bucks for this same jumper. Clothes was almost double it. And the thing is, I never thought the material is like Lands' End. It's really soft. It's, and stuff is lined, and they had some different plaids and stuff, but their per piece unit price was just too outrageous, and they just defaulted just because they're just so heavily into debt, and their price points were all screwed up and everything. It shows you how certain companies have come about. And there's other smaller companies out there. There's some out in Texas, California, and the Midwest, and they're doing fine in there. I mean, I'll tell you another one went out of business that was a pretty large deal. Was Royal Park out of North Carolina. Very large, nationwide. They had the biggest sizes, the biggest eggs. They're leveraged out too. Their numbers and the way how their everything was out mainly was capacity. They had so much capacity, and they're doing outdated. Some of their machinery is outdated. They had some cash flow issues. They were just a mess. They did bankruptcy too. They went out of business. A label company bought them out. They were selling Royal Park and some of their off-brand names for a few years at Staples. I remember Staples had school uniforms for like a year. I mean, it's kind of goofy, but I'm just saying, it's just market. It's sort of interesting when it boils down to school uniforms. So I'll just end it right here because that's pretty much it. So in just summing up, hard market to get into. Your buyers are limited. Stock's limited. I'll probably do a thing on skirts and the schoolgirl uniform costume sort of thing in the future, because it's sort of like Chris sells stuff. It's like I don't feel there's ever a video out there or just great information about do school uniforms outside of the school realm. The school store exchange or buying them secondhand. Is there a market for it? There is a market for it. You're going to get good deals. If I was a buyer, you're going to get great deals on stuff, because if you get a set of clothes for 150 bucks and it'll cost you 500 to do a kid, yeah, you get some. But the thing is, you got to match pieces to what your uniforms are and everything. And every school has a different uniform, different plaids, different colors, different styles. Some schools, they want a certain look to it, so all the students look the same, boys and girls. Like this would be a unit that they want a particular look. They just sit there and say, okay, we want the full breast thing on their pleats. It's because there's some of these that have the knife pleats and the straights. There's some that have the princess cut. I mean, I could go on forever on the different types. So this is just a normal drop waist jumper, and with the kick pleats onto it. So it's not. It isn't what it is what it is. I just say that. So again, if you're trying to sell a bunch of these things, it's going to be a hard sell. They have to be in great condition. Newer the better. Where it has to be close to very good. You can't have anything less than that. You're doing vintage. Etsy, you gotta do vintage through Etsy. eBay, you're just not going to get anything for it. Etsy, that's a concentration of the clientele you're trying to buy or trying to sell to. Mercari, I think that the audience is even smaller. I bought a few things Mercari, people on Mercari, and the system's pretty good. Again, small market, you may get a good deal. Depends on the thing. It depends on the item and what the deals and the terms are. So, and that's all I have to say about selling jumpers on through e-commerce secondhand. And if you like videos like this, I do videos on various subjects and various subject matters and different ideas and stuff like that. So I am a collector for the most part, so it mainly is about collecting and operating collections and stuff like that. So if stuff like that, you like it, subscribe, share, comments. Again, these are not commentary videos. I just sit there. I'm just saying that what my experience is. Take or leave it for what it is. You could comment, say, I got, you did good, It's like, I did great. I did very good. You know, it's just, I had a beholder right now. Okay, that's enough for me. See ya.